2017 was not the worst year for games in recent history, but I don't think it was the best. Or maybe it's the fact that when I was making my list for this video, I realised that this year, more than any, I haven't had time to actually keep up with the recent releases and play them to, you know, their full potential. So I actually struggled making certain areas of this list, and now, whether that's because 2017 just wasn't a great year for games, or whether I just haven't had enough time to invest myself in the games, well, that's up to personal opinion. I don't think that 2017 was the best year, but the good games that did come out were absolute gems. So this video is going to be cut up into 3 different sections and 3 different games in each section. So we've got best games of 2017, we've got honourable mentions that, yeah, they were pretty good games, but I don't think they were like the best of the year. And we've also got what I'm looking forward to in 2018, which is a longer list than everything in 2017. So, I don't know, be that as it may. So my personal best 3 games of 2017. At number 3 is Middle-earth: Shadow of War. Now, I had trouble putting this on the list, and this is the one that I had the most difficulty with, because Shadow of War is a great game, and it's much improved from Shadow of Mordor. At least I think anyway. I do really enjoy Shadow of War, and where I haven't finished it yet, I have been enjoying it a lot. It's provided me with a lot of moments where I've just gone, wow, that's awesome, and a lot of memorable moments, which I still remember some of the cutscenes as being some of the most badass cutscenes I've ever seen. The gameplay is much improved and a lot smoother, and it's just so much fun, and it's really satisfying, just slicing orcs' head off, and the storyline so far, it's been very dynamic. It's been very interesting to see where Talion and Celebrimbor go, and obviously, as a Lord of the Rings fan, I enjoy that kind of universe and that whole world anyway. And, you know, Talion and Celebrimbor, they aren't mentioned at all in any of the movies, the books, or lore anywhere else. So this game, along with Shadow of Mordor, is a good opportunity to get more out of Middle-earth and kind of dig deeper into the lore of that universe. Do I think it's going to win any Game of the Year awards? I don't think it should, and I didn't think Shadow of Mordor should either. I heard loads of people when Shadow of Mordor come out as a Game of the Year? The best game ever! I'm like, really? It just isn't, it's good, it just isn't amazing, you know, it doesn't strike me as, my god, I will tell my grandkids about this game. It is, damn, the best fucking game I've ever put into my PS4. You know, I just don't think it's that amazing. But because I'm a fan of Middle-earth, because Shadow of War is just such a big improvement over Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, and the fact that I needed a number 3 for this list, I'm going to put Shadow of War at number 3 for my top games of 2017. At number 2, and I don't think anyone who actually knows me is going to be surprised by this one, it is of course PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. That's probably going to cause some controversy, but let me explain. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, or PUBG as I'm going to abbreviate it to, is, to me, the best Battle Royale game that's ever laid eyes on the public. It really is just, I love it. And I can't really pinpoint exactly what it is, because I've played H1, I've played Fortnite, I've played all sorts of different, I've played Arma 3 Battle Royale, you know, I've played all sorts of Battle Royales. I love Battle Royales as a genre. But what does PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds do differently to all the others? I'm not exactly sure myself, but I'm now finding myself with over 300 hours, on the way to 400 hours, and I want to keep playing more and more and more of it each day, and that's something I didn't get from any other Battle Royale game. I would jump on it every now and then and have a bit of fun, but I didn't crave it every day, and PUBG I crave every day. It's weird. It really is weird. I love the way they've gone about the gameplay, for one. Arma 3, for example, is very difficult to get your head around it. There's a lot of different controls. It's very complicated. Whereas H1, it's just a bit of bullshit, really. You can jump out of cars at full speed. You know, it's just very simplistic. But PUBG brings in that element of easy to learn gameplay mechanics and semi-realism combines it into one perfect mishmash, you know? It's got the realism of you can't jump out of cars, but like fucking bullshit. You have to slow down the car, for example, and get out. So it's not that, you know, you've got superhuman health whole ability that H1 had, but at the same time, you've got the gameplay that really isn't that difficult to learn, you know? It's very, very simple, but it just works, and it's a lot more realistic than Fortnite, for example, which I like the realistic gameplay and more tactical gameplay more than Fortnite, personally. Also, I love the way they've been developing PUBG, and I can see so many avenues that could open up when they open, like modding, for example, when they open up new game modes, perhaps. They could take this game so far, and yeah, I could even see like a new DayZ mod or something coming out on the PUBG engine. It could just go that far, and I think that's what makes me so excited about PUBG. Is I love the base game and it's great, but I think they could do so much more, and I think they plan to do so much more. Now, of course, there are downsides to PUBG, you know, they've had a lot of problems, especially with FPS and stuff like that. It's quite buggy at times. They've put it on the Xbox One already, which I don't think was a very good move, to be honest. I think they should have waited a little bit longer, because really, you know, the FPS is a bit shit on Xbox One at the moment, and I don't think that gave them a good enough rap. You know, with the now massive competition with Fortnite and other Battle Royales like that, and everyone's getting on the Battle Royale hype train now. Everyone. Even CS is talking about getting a Battle Royale. What the fuck? You know, PUBG really need to, you know, they're at the top at the moment. They're at over 3 million players now, they announced on Twitter. And if they're going to stay at the top, they need to be, you know, pleasing their audience a lot more. You can't please everyone, but there were a lot of unhappy customers when they put it on the Xbox One and it wasn't amazing. It was on the Xbox One S and it was running at under 30 frames. People were promised 60 frames and a lot higher on Xbox One X, and when you know, bring a game that's not quite finished and not quite there yet, like on point for a console, that's not really good for business. And there's also talk about they're bringing a mobile version of PUBG to mobile in 2018. No, that's a bad idea too. You know, I do think they're kind of milking it at this point, but PUBG as a game on PC, I really enjoy it, and I can't wait to see where they go with it. So at number 1, and probably one of my favourite games of all time, this goes in the top 3 games of all time, this is Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn was such a surprise to me, and I think that's what impressed me so much about it. It was the same with The Last of Us. The Last of Us is my favourite game of all time, and I wasn't going to pick it up originally, and I thought, okay, yeah, I'll pick it up, why not, I'll try it out, and it ended up just blowing me away, and that's what Horizon Zero Dawn did, because on the outside, it seems like just a cool little world that, oh my god, there's, you know, dinosaur robots, that's badass, you know, it just looks like a cool little world that you can run around in and have some really cool times. The concept itself is really interesting. I've seen no other game that does dinosaur robots exactly how Horizon Zero Dawn does. So one, it's a whole new concept. That's not something we see much anymore in the gaming industry. A lot of it's, you know, redesigned, rehashed ideas from other games. So I like the fact that it was more of a niche kind of area of the gaming industry. And then, on top of that, they put a badass twist and turny story in there, which kept me asking questions all the time. It was literally up until the last hour of that game, I had a million questions. I still had a few questions at the end of that game, you know, and it looks like that might be answered in the DLC that's coming out now. And what I just love about it is the fact that it built up the story. It made me, you know, I was thinking up of theories all the way through. I was asking questions all the way through. And then, at the time when it actually gives me the answers, it just blows all my shit-ass theories out the way and goes, here's a really good story arc, which you never thought of because you're an idiot, and this is amazing. It really just blew me away. And I think it left me with, you know, such a feeling of, whoa, what? That's probably why it was so memorable to me and why I just loved it so much. I'm a bit of a sucker for story, can you tell? But also, the gameplay mechanics were very nice. The platforming was just beautiful. I love the mix of you can climb, you can, you know, run, swim. The whole kind of gameplay element of it was very easy to grasp, which was good because when you take down a big ass Thunderjaw, you feel badass, but you don't need to be a pro at the game to be able to do that. It appeals to all gamers in that way, but of course you do have the challenge element of it, and if you want to, like for example the Frozen Wilds DLC is so much noticeably harder, and I do like that about that game, is the fact that yes, the basic gameplay mechanics are easy to grasp, but if you really want to progress and you really want to succeed in this world to the highest of magnitudes, you do have to have some sort of skill. So it's not impossible, like Dark Souls for example, you have to have fucking masses of skill to get past the tutorial. You can just go in, have a relaxing time and enjoy your time, but at the same time there is that skill element there. It balances it quite well, and of course with the Frozen Wilds DLC, I haven't finished that yet, but again, it's got a story arc that's get me to ask questions, and I bet you at the end of that DLC, it's going to throw a massive curveball, and I'm going to be like, mind blown. So personally, Horizon Zero Dawn for me was not only the best game of 2017, but goes into my top 3 best games of all time. I absolutely adored that game. Okay, moving on to honourable mentions, and these are games that I thought, yeah, I want to mention because they're pretty damn nice games, and they're really interesting games, but I didn't either play them myself, or I didn't think they were the best games of 2017, so here we go. Going in at number 3 is Cuphead. Now, that's a game that still recently only came out in the last couple months, if I remember rightly, but Cuphead is just a delightful game, and what I love about it so much is it kind of brings the gaming franchise, or the gaming industry, sorry, back to where it kind of grew up in. It's very difficult, it's very unforgiving, it's a boss battle game. That's what gaming kind of started off as, and that's what Cuphead aimed to reinstate. It really does have that challenge that comes with the honour of saying, yes, I beat this game. A lot of people I talk to when I'm talking about Dark Souls, for example, they're like, yeah, I completed that game, fucking brush the dust off my shoulders. Same with Cuphead. I haven't played Cuphead myself, but I've watched a lot of it, and it is a very well-made game. They've got all the boss battles, and then they've got the platforming as well, which is, of course, a very classic tradition of games. I think Cuphead's one of those games that literally everyone can get on board with. Adults can get on board with it, kids can get on board with it, and everyone's got that. It's at the same difficulty level, so everyone's in the same boat of pain here. And of course, on top of that, the soundtrack's very classic with the barbershop quartet. That was a nice touch. And if I remember rightly, all of the characters, all of the scenes are hand-drawn, so it's got that classic kind of almost Disney-like cartoon element of it, and it's very, very charming in that way. It's very classical, it's very charming, it takes you back to the good old days of games, back in my day, you know, and I don't think you see enough of that anymore. Games are getting a lot easier, and I don't necessarily think that's a good thing personally. I don't think every game should be as hard as Cuphead, but I don't think every game should be piss easy, here you go, I'm just going to hand you everything, you know. One very important factor about games is you work for what you get, and then you feel achieved at the end of it. And I think a lot of games don't do that anymore, they just kind of hand it to you. Cuphead goes back to the good old days where if you do one fuck up, you're going straight back to the start, son, and you are not allowed to whine about it. Moving on to number 2, What Remains of Edith Finch. Now, this game kind of flew under the radar a little bit, and not a lot of people heard about it, but I saw it when it first came out, and again, I didn't actually play it myself. I really want to get my hands on it, but I did. I was captured by the game, and I watched it for hours on end. I think I actually finished the whole walkthrough within one day, because I just didn't want to stop watching. It's one of those games where the environment and the atmosphere absorbs you in, and tells the story just through that. And games like that really interest me, because you can, you know, add a load of explosions and gunfire and loads of cool characters and be like, yeah, this is a game, this is a good game. But when you tell a story just through basic cutscenes, through an environment that is completely empty and abandoned, like in What Remains of Edith Finch, that's really interesting to me, and the story arc and the storytelling in that game is really interesting. There's a lot of twists and turns in that game, and it really does make you think. And when you first walk into the game, you really don't know what you're getting yourself into. And you walk into that house and you're like, okay, I'm here. Why am I here? And then by the end of the game, you're completely flipped around. All the knowledge has, hit you in the face, and you're like, wow, that was actually really interesting. And the game tells you these stories through really weird and wacky ways. And I remember through watching it, I was thinking, okay, I don't understand what this is trying to tell me. This is really weird, and I'm not sure if I love it. But then by the end of it, I was like, oh, that was actually a really cool metaphor for something. Or, that particular cutscene gave away so much more background information about the character that we're playing as, for example. It was more of a kind of like a mystery exploration game, and it was really cool. It's one of those games I would probably go as far to say is it's a work of art. It's not just a game that's been thrown together for entertainment. It's got a whole lot more in the background, and you could put it up in a museum and be like, yes, this is what remains of Edith Finch. So if you haven't played that game yet, I would highly recommend you playing it. It's one of those games that goes kind of under the radar a little bit, but it should not go unmissed. And at number 1 for honourable mentions is Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Now, the underlying reason why I put this at number 1 is because it did something that I have never seen in a game before, and that's it used binaural audio. If you don't know what binaural audio is, basically you get a mannequin's head and you put 2 microphones where the ears are, in a human obviously, and then you basically record the audio with those 2 microphones, and it'll pick up exactly where you are. So for example, if you've got headphones on, it only really works when you've got headphones on. You'll hear a voice to your right, and then all of a sudden there'll be another voice in your left front, for example. Then it'll be in front of you, then it'll be behind you, and it really does give you this 360 view of the sound. I've never seen this done in a game before, and it worked so well. The whole kind of story arc of Senua is that she's got some demons, and she's got a lot of voices inside her head, and you kind of do feel the insanity when you're playing that game and you've got the headphones on, and you're hearing voices literally everywhere. It really does give a really cool effect, and it fucking worked. I really want to see more games do that, because there's so many different places that binaural audio could take you in games, not just on the insanity level, but there could be so many other places to explore, and that could create some really cool, memorable, even horror games. Like, binaural audio in horror games would work so well, but even in action, imagine hearing all the action around you. It'd be just so much more immersive. And of course the gameplay is pretty satisfying, and I never actually finished the game, not yet anyway, but so far I'm intrigued, and even from the first cutscene I was very intrigued, and that game kind of whacked me on a hook and reeled me in. So if you haven't played that game either, I recommend you play it, but please do play it with headphones, because that binaural audio is mwah, beautiful. Okay, moving swiftly on to what I'm looking forward to in 2018. There are so many games, and this is actually the one that I struggled to put into a list. Coming in at number 3 is A Way Out. Now, this was a surprise at E3 last year, because I didn't expect a game like this to actually ever come out now, because it's kind of something that's been forgotten. Basically, this game can't be played. It's a 2-player co-op experience, but it can't be played online. You have to play it with someone next to you split screen. Last time I played split screen, I can't even remember. I'm pretty sure it was probably on COD at some point, because you just don't get enough gatherings now where people just play games. It's all online, and what the developers wanted to do with A Way Out is they wanted to bring gamers back onto the couch with each other, and give them a gameplay experience that isn't really seen anymore. And I'm really excited to get this game, sit on my couch with my friends and play through this game and see how it goes, because the gameplay mechanics look really interesting. You play as a character each, and you have to do stuff in sync with each other to actually get stuff done. I'm looking forward to see where the whole gameplay mechanic goes, and whether it gives you different options, and where it kind of allows you to go. Can you betray each other, for example, or are you very close knit and you have to kind of decide on what you're going to do before it happens, and then maybe one of you can, I don't know, fuck it up and then the other person has to then go and help. I don't know. There's so many different ways it could go. And I think the gameplay idea of 2 people being next to each other instead of online, it's going to, you know, create some very interesting memories for gamers. And it's also going to allow communication to be a little bit more different. Of course, on top of that, I want the story to be really cool. They haven't really leaked anything about the story yet. They've just leaked about, you know, oh, it's a co-op experience. You're playing with your friend. It's split screen. You're playing as one of the characters each. Let's do some shit. So we haven't really released anything else other than that yet. But I do want the story to be really cool. In at number 2 is Days Gone. Oh, I want Days Gone so much. It looks so cool, and I'm a fan of the zombie genre still. A lot of people think it's very played out, which is fair enough. It is kind of a little bit played out by now, but I'm not tired of it yet. And Days Gone looks just so cool. You play as a biker who's in an ex-biker gang. I'm not sure if he still is in the biker gang, but he's basically going around and he's, you know, shooting up, being a badass, and I'm assuming he's going to be a bit of a lone wolf that goes around and helps people, but maybe there'll be more to the story than that. What I think I'm most excited about is the mutants in this game. They're not zombies because you don't have to shoot them in the head to kill them, apparently, so they're definitely mutants. They're going to be more of a threat, and I think in most zombie games now, like, you know, Daisy, for example, or even Left 4 Dead, The Walking Dead even, the zombies aren't much of a threat. Like, you always know you're gonna make it out, or even if you don't, you're not very panicking, are you? You know, I remember when I first started playing zombie games, I was fearing for my life. And I just don't think zombies are enough of a threat in games anymore. I mean, if there was a zombie apocalypse, zombies would be, you know, a real big threat. And I don't think many games home in on that anymore. I think they want to give you all the power, and they just want to see you smash zombie skulls. Yeah, that's really fun and satisfying, but I want to see a game that really makes you fear the zombies. And I mean, just through the gameplay that Days Gone released at the E3 before last, where the whole horde is just running at you, and, you know, whoever the main character is, I've forgotten his name, is shooting them, and he's like, ah, fuck it, I'm running, you know. There's just no way you can mow all them down. It's terrifying, it really is, and I can't wait to get into that game and be running from those hordes. I really do think that this game is going to home in on the mutants and make them absolutely terrifying. Something you fear, and when you see them, you don't just go, alright, it's fucking, you know, it's kill 'em, boys. You see them and go, is this a good idea? And of course, at number 1 for my most anticipated game of 2018 is, unsurprisingly, The Last of Us 2. As I've already said, The Last of Us is my favourite game of all time. And when I saw the release trailer for The Last of Us 2, I shit myself. I didn't literally shit myself, but I may as well have just shit myself. All the teaser trailers they've released so far, all the little pieces of information that they've leaked have been so cool so far, and it's just making me so antsy and so hyped for The Last of Us 2. You know, I thought the first game was just so good, and the second game now, you know, they know what the audience like, they know why The Last of Us was so successful and why so many people love it, and I think they're going to home in on what we love, and then they're going to add some new stuff that we're going to love even more. And I think The Last of Us 2 is going to be a massive boost on The Last of Us kind of, you know, universe and franchise, because, you know, The Last of Us 1 was a good baseline start, you know. We got introduced to the world, we know kind of what's going on now with the whole virus. We know Joel and Ellie, they're making a return in The Last of Us 2, and I want to see more of this world. I want to see, you know, we saw kind of parts of the world, we went all the way across the US in the first game, but this game looks like it's going to, you know, even expand that world even more, and we're going to see a lot more of it, and a lot more of the horrors that lie in wait in this world. I have absolutely no doubt that The Last of Us 2 will have an amazing story. They're just so good, Naughty Dog, at making games like that. And The Last of Us 1 had a groundbreaking story. Last of Us 2 will not disappoint. I'm going to say I know. I hope, but I know they won't fuck the story up. And of course, I mean, through the releases and the trailers that they've announced, it's looking very interesting. Some new characters have popped up. I mean, as a Last of Us fan, I'm really fucking stoked. And I'm hoping that The Last of Us 2 is going to be so good that it draws in new people people, and they're like, oh my god, this is so cool, and then we can be like, hey, there's another game, go play that one first, and then come back to this awesome one, and we can get loads of more people on the Last of Us hype wagon. So I could just gush about The Last of Us 2 all day, you know, I'm just a massive fan of The Last of Us, so, I mean, people could say that The Last of Us 2 is going to be absolutely shit, I would not believe them, okay? You know, I just really hope that Last of Us 2 is going to be absolutely amazing, and if it's not, I'm going to be severely disappointed, and, you know, I might do some things I regret. I won't, don't worry. Just a couple more games that I wanted to put on the most looking forward to list, but I don't think it was in my top 3. Red Dead Redemption 2, that was almost in the top 3, but I think the 3 games I've already mentioned, they're going to be the most interesting, and the ones I'm personally most looking forward to. So, Red Dead 2, one of my favourite games of all time, Red Dead Redemption. So, don't get me wrong, really looking forward to Red Dead 2, but I just don't think it was in the top 3 quite. But also, State of Decay 2, Detroit Becoming Human, Skull and Bones, and God of War, all looking forward to them, but I think the video's gone on for long enough, and I can't gush about games forever. So anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch. Be sure to have your say in the comments down below. What do you think 2017 was like for games? What were your favourite games? And what are you most looking forward to in 2018? Are you as excited as I am for 2018? Or do you think 2017 won't be able to top 2018? I personally think 2018 is going to absolutely blow 2017 out of the water. But don't get me wrong, there were some really good games this year. And it's not been an awful year at all. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I shall say goodbye. That does absolute fearsome amounts of damage. Boom, baby. What do I do here? Oh, I absolutely destroy. That's what I do. Hey, yo, bro, catch. Dude, there ain't no point, mate. There ain't no point. Just go home. Just go home. You ain't seen skill like this ever. Look at that! Oh, that gay ain't having no kids. He wouldn't have any kids.